everyone, I am Dr. Sumit Shinde, a pediatric occupational therapist, and today we are going to speak about autism spectrum disorders and difference between ADHD and autism spectrum disorders. There are many parents who are not aware about what my child is suffering from. Recently, I came to know that many parents were treating the child's eye contact issues with the attention techniques, developing attention techniques, and that is hazardous. And when I asked them, that the parents said my child is not giving attention, but that was not attention. The child was not developed. Child has not developed enough eye contact, and developing eye contact is definitely a different phenomenon. So I failed to bring this topic in front of you, and let's sensitize everyone to understand the characteristic difference between these two disorders. So let's talk about definition. The definition of autism is it is a neurological developmental disorder in which three things are affected, and first thing is lack of communication development. The second thing is lack of social interaction development, and the third and very important criteria of autism is presence of stereotypical behaviors. So when the child is falling in these three criteria, then we will call it as autism. Let's talk about what is ADHD. ADHD is a neurological developmental disorder in which again three things are seen predominantly. The first thing, the child is showing lack of attention, or the child is unable to attain at a particular thing, or child shows a lot of distractibility. Second thing in ADHD is hyperactivity. Hyperactivity, child is not sitting at one place, child keeps running here and there, child keeps jumping on a couch, child may climb anywhere. That is hyperactivity. And third criteria of ADHD is impulsivity. Child is not having enough patience. Child doesn't want to wait for his turns. Child reacts abruptly, or he may show quick aggression if his demands are not fulfilled. There are n number of things are involved in this criteria, but we are going to give more focus on difference between these criteria which happens in ADHD and which happens in autism. So when we talk about autism, my child is not giving attention and my child is not giving eye contact. These are two different terms. So when we approach to the child and when we call the child looks at you and then starts looking here and there, that is lack of attention. The child is getting distracted again and again. That may happen in autism also, but in autism, when the child looks at you, child will not be able to create an emotional response with you. So, with respect to inattention, the child in autism will not be able to understand only what you are trying to give or what you are trying to do with the child. But in ADHD, child somewhat understands what you are trying to do. Child may do it also one or two times, but the child will quickly get distracted to another activity and child will start performing that activity. But in autism, child will unable to understand what you are performing with him. That's about inattention. Next is hyperactivity. Now, you see hyperactivity in autism also, you see hyperactivity in ADHD also. Now, when a child is just sitting and just moving the muscles or stereotypical behaviors, if it's showing without any intentions, or whenever the child gets excited, the child will become hyperkinetic. It can be flapping, it can be a toe walking, it can be unnecessarily movements, it can be exaggerated movements. Yes, and without understanding whether I am doing those movements, that is stereotypical behaviors. In hyperactivity, child is definitely into the exploration format. Child wants to explore the environment. So child tries to explore by doing a hyperkinetic movements. So child will climb anywhere to see what is there, or what is kept up. Child will run here and there or child will exaggerate movements to open the drawer. Child will push the things and all. That is hyperactivity. But if the child is doing it without understanding what he's doing, or if there is no exploration is involved, that is autism. You may see both the movements are same. You may see in autism also child keeps running here and there, but child will run for no reason. There will not be any exploration involved. Then it is autism. So this is about hyperactivity, differences in autism and in hyperactivity or in ADHD. The third criteria to understand the difference in autism and ADHD is orientation. In ASD kids, the orientation is based more on fixations. The child knows something, what he loves and what he likes. But in ADHD, the child is aware about overall environment. Only he is not able to give attention to a particular environment, but child is aware about the environment. So that's a very important criteria of orientation. In autism, child may identify so many things if he is intellectually good, but he will not be able to orient himself with respect to surroundings. Whereas in autism, he will start expressing the environment about what is happening around. If both the kids are developed speech, then the autism child will only say the words what he has been trained, to describe the environment. But whereas in ADHD, the child will describe environment in phrases, in sentences, and he will try to describe more of actions by appropriate facial expressions. That's the next point I'm coming to you, that is expressions. The facial expressions is the biggest demarcating criteria in autism and in ADHD. If the autism child is speaking, then he will speak with no expressions. There will be a mask-like face in autism. But if it is ADHD, in fact, ADHD child exaggerates his expressions. And that's the criteria we professional quickly grabs it, whether the child is operating from ASD or is operating from ADHD. So in autism, the expressive communication lacks in expressions of the faces and gestures predominantly. Whereas in ADHD, the child will be able to give appropriate, it may not be appropriate expressions, they can be exaggerated, but there will be expressions and gestures which are in context with the words what he's talking about. So these are the major differential criteria in ADHD and ASD. Now why I am bringing these criteria in front of you? If we say autism, the sensory integration therapy, the neurodevelopmental techniques, the interventions are different. Maybe the activities are same in both the cases, but the intervention is different. The goals are different, and what we want to input, the inputs are different, and extracting factors are different in both the disorders. Maybe the activities are same. Maybe the treatment approach is same. But the extracting factors or inputs are different. So most of the time, if the parent tries to treat autism by taking the ADHD activities or ADHD treatment protocol, then definitely the child and parent definitely suffers during the treatment also, and later on also child shows a lot of lags in the developmental patterns. Same things with ADHD. If the ADHD child and parents takes it as autism and then tries to develop in autism format, the child will not be able to understand parent. So it's very important to understand the difference between ADHD and ASD. Although I told you that the difference between autism and ADHD, so these are the different disorders, but since in developmental disabilities, both can be present in a child. For example, a child with autism may show some characteristic features of ADHD, and a child with ADHD may show some features of autism also. But over here, what we need to do is, it's very important to identify the underlying disorder or the dominant disorder. So the predominant autism with acquired ADHD traits is a different, and predominant ADHD with acquired autism traits, the criteria is different. And believe me, both the criteria, the treatment should be different. In autism, the parenting is different, the sensory diet is different, the goals are different, and what the time spent for the therapies and time spent for the protocol is different. In ADHD, the goals are different, they are faster. The parenting is different, it is more of a behavioral. Over here, the parenting is more of emotional. Over here, the parenting is more of a autocratic. Over here, the parenting is more of a nurturing. So obviously, the overall approach is different. So in autism, if the parenting of autocratic or the controlled parenting, and if we use that approach, then autism child will show lots of tantrums, or autism child may become anxious in later on stages. And in the autism child's nurturing approach, in ADHD if we use it, and if we use the nurturing approach to the ADHD child, then child will become more free attitude, and he will develop more hyperactivity or more free child attitude, and then he will become more rebel in front of the parent. So that was the reason I wanted to bring these points in front of you. ADHD is a different criteria, autism is a different criteria, and why I'm telling it to the parents, because most of the time you parents discuss your children's issues among each other. So when an autism parent is discussing her problem with the ADHD child's parent, and when the ADHD parent tries to relate those things with her child, it's the biggest sin, let me tell you. Because the treatment what used over here, this parent may start using over here, and this parent may get stuck in between. So that is the reason I would like to enlighten you with this particular differences. For us, the professionals, we need to understand what is a predominant disorder and what is an overlapping disorder. If both are present, and definitely the treatment changes. And with respect to appropriate approach when we go, then definitely autism and ADHD are treatable, and we can take the children to their maximum intellectual functioning. We can help them to operate with their maximum intellectual functioning, and we can help them to be independent in the society. I am Dr. Sumit Shinde, a pediatric occupational therapist who is dealing with n number of cases with developmental disabilities in India, abroad, through online consultations, through offline consultations, and my whole team, multidisciplinary team, is working for all these developmental disabilities. If any queries comes to you, you can contact us, and definitely we will solve your queries with respect to your child's development, his behaviors, and his learning issues. Thank you.